Have you ever wondered about the lost city of Atlantis? Have you ever asked yourself if it was more than just a myth told by Plato? What if Atlantis was real? And what if it was connected to the golden age of mankind and the great flood described in the days of Noah? What if these weren't three separate events at all, but one and the same? What if Atlantis, the golden age, and the flood were fragments of a single story, remembered differently across the world in different tongues? And what if the missing pieces of that story can be found in ancient texts like Genesis, the Book of Enoch, and the Book of Jubilees? Listen closely. What you're about to hear is not fact, but speculation. A weaving of scriptures, ancient writings, and myth. I'll tell the story as it has been pieced together, and then you can decide for yourself. This story is not presented as fact. It is a speculative what if, blending the Book of Genesis, the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, classical myth, and cultural memory. Listeners are encouraged to study the text for themselves, do their own research, and form their own interpretations. In the earliest days before crowns and empires, mankind lived close to the earth. The children of Adam labored in fields and raised families beneath a wide and perfect sky. Knowledge grew slowly, lives stretched long, and though people were flawed, many still remembered the Creator with humble hearts. But then came the crossing of a boundary that should never have been crossed. The sons of God looked down and saw the daughters of men. Desire consumed them. Genesis 6:2 says, "The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took them as wives whomever they chose." The Book of Enoch tells us these angels were called the Watchers. On Mount Hermon, they swore an oath together. Semjaza, their leader, bound them with a pact that none would turn back once they descended. Enoch 6:1-6. They desired women, and in return for them, they offered mankind forbidden knowledge. Enoch 8 describes what they taught. Azazel showed men how to make swords, knives, shields, and armor, and how to work with metals into ornaments. Semjaza taught enchantments and root cutting. Barkel taught astrology. Kokabel revealed the signs of the stars. Penemu taught writing. Casdeja revealed the course of the moon. They gave mankind mathematics, astronomy, astrology, writing, metalwork, medicine, sorcery, and cosmetics. This knowledge lifted humanity like fire in the night. Cities rose, ships sailed, temples glittered. Many remembered it as a golden age, or what some call the High Silver Age, an age of brilliance, but built on corruption. And at its center, some whisper, was Atlantis. Plato described Atlantis as a vast island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, with rings of land and sea, canals like mirrors, and temples covered in precious metals. Whether Plato's tale was parable or memory, it fits the picture of a civilization built upon forbidden wisdom. But from the unions of angels and women came giants, the Nephilim. Genesis 6:4 says, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. They were the mighty men of old, men of renown. At first admired, they soon became feared. Their appetites were insatiable." Enoch 7:4-5 records. The giants consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. They began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. This was the turning point. The Nephilim devoured the earth until famine spread. When crops and herds failed, they turned to man. They became cannibals, drinking blood and spreading terror. What had been called a golden age fell into horror. The Creator looked upon the earth. Genesis 6:11-12 says, "Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. God resolved to cleanse creation, but Noah found favor." Genesis 6:9 says, "Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation." Noah walked with God. Many believe this means Noah's bloodline was not corrupted by the Watchers. His family remained pure. Noah was commanded to build an ark, and as he labored, the giants mocked him. Legends say they threatened him, tried to destroy his work, even sought to seize the ark. But God sent his holy angels. Enoch 10 describes how Raphael was commanded to bind Azazel, Gabriel to strike the giants, Michael to imprison Simjasa, and Uriel to warn Noah. Under their protection, the ark was built plank by plank, and God gave Noah new commands. Genesis 9:3-4 says, "Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it." The Book of Jubilees repeats this. Warning, you shall not eat any blood, for the life of all flesh is in the blood. Whoever eats blood shall be destroyed from the earth. Jubilees 6:7-12. This command was given because the giants had filled the earth with bloodshed and cannibalism. Man was allowed to eat plants and animals, but never blood and never man. Then the day came. The fountains of the deep broke open. The floodgates of heaven opened. Rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights. The waters rose higher than the mountains. Cities and kingdoms were swallowed. And Atlantis, that jewel of the age, was destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune, just as Plato recorded. The Nephilim perished in the waters. The watchers were bound in chains of darkness until the day of judgment, and only Noah, his family, and the ark survived. When the waters receded, the ark rested on the mountains. Noah stepped onto a cleansed earth. God set his bow in the sky, a covenant that the world would never again be destroyed by flood. Genesis 9:11-13. Yet the memory remained, and so did the question. Why are there giants mentioned after the flood? The Book of Enoch explains, the spirits of the giants, once their flesh perished, would remain on earth as unclean spirits. Enoch 15:8-12 says, "Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies. They shall afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, and do battle. They shall corrupt upon the earth and cause trouble." The Book of Jubilees adds that Mastema, chief of these spirits, asked God to let a portion remain, and God allowed 1/10 to stay, while the rest were bound. Jubilees 10:8-9, 11-12. This is why giants and demons appear after the flood. They were allowed as a test for mankind. Some say a few giants survived the waters. Others say the corruption rose again in Noah's descendants, bringing Nephilim once more. Either way, the memory of giants endured. The Anakim, the Rephaim, the sons of Goliath, echoes of the ancient world. Across the nations, the story lived on. The Sumerians told of antediluvian kings who reigned for thousands of years before the flood. The Greeks told of Deucalion, who survived when waters consumed the world. Plato spoke of Atlantis. The Hebrews remembered Noah and the Nephilim. Different tongues, different fragments. One story, a world lifted by forbidden knowledge. A golden age corrupted by pride. Giants who devoured the earth. A flood that swept it all away. This story is a what if. A weaving of Genesis, Enoch, Jubilees, Plato, and myth. It is not fact. References include Genesis 6-9, Enoch 6-8, 10, 15-16, and Jubilees 6 and 10. You are encouraged to read these texts, study them, and decide for yourself. Perhaps Atlantis, the Golden Age, and the Flood are not 3 stories, but one.